All right, so here's the deal. We all want to shred. It's probably the reason a lot of us got into the guitar. We saw Marty McFly in Back to the Future. We saw School of Rock. We saw Crossroads. We played Guitar Hero, right? We had all these things in pop culture that pointed us towards this idea of the pinnacle of guitar is to shred. However, I have some bad news. It's not necessarily the most important thing you can do on a guitar. Here's a list of 6 songs with some of the most iconic guitar solos of all time, and if you take the length of the solo versus the length of the song, you'll actually end up realizing that the solo doesn't take up as much of the song as you think. Even Freebird is less than 50% of the song. And if you find the average of all of these, it turns out that only about 21.6% of the time are we actually playing a guitar solo. So, what are we doing with the other 78.4% of our time? So let's establish some definitions here. A song, in its most simple, basic form, must have 3 things. It must have a melody, harmony, and rhythm. Now, while these are not the only things that make up a song, and each of these has some subcategories, today we're focusing mainly on these 3 main roles that every song requires. So let's take something as simple as Mary Had a Little Lamb. Here's the melody. It's the main moving line that really helps us know what song it is that we're playing. Here's the harmony. In short, these are the chords that we play under the melody that provide the context for the melody. And up next is the rhythm. While the rhythm has to do with tempo and strong beats versus soft beats versus groove, the main role of it is that it tells us what genre or style we're playing in. Now, as you just saw, guitarists are able to fill any one of these roles. They can take over the rhythm, they can take over the harmony, they can take over the melody if they need to, and sometimes they can even do all 3 at once. But the point of the video today is to talk about the roles that we find ourselves most consistently filling, particularly when we're playing with other people. And those are harmony and rhythm. In a classic rock band like, say, Led Zeppelin, as a guitarist, there may be times where we play a consistent riff in the intro or after the chorus while we're waiting for the lead singer to come in, but for the most part, what we find ourselves doing is we're usually filling out the harmonic structure of the song, as well as we find ourselves adding quite a bit to the rhythmic feel of a song. And we also play a very significant role when it comes to the rhythmic elements of a song. Can you imagine if after the solo in Stairway to Heaven, instead of playing this, we just played this? In both examples, we're still fulfilling the harmonic role, but we're very seriously lacking in the rhythmic role. It becomes even more apparent when we find ourselves in like an acoustic duo or where we're playing acoustic guitar and singing for ourselves. Once we lose the drummer, we are responsible for the entire rhythmic element of the song and holding down the harmonic structure of the song. Here's an example of how us changing the harmonic structure of a song can influence that song. Here's another one. Now let's go back to the original chords, but let's see how much our rhythmic choices can influence the song. Or what about this? So all of this comes back to one main point. As guitarists, we have so much control over whether or not the melody sounds good. And it reiterates the lesson that my teacher taught me, which is you are more likely to get hired for your ability to make a singer sound good rather than for your ability to shred. On top of that, there are so many examples of incredible, beautiful solos that are not shreddy really at all. They don't have a ton of notes. They don't have a bunch of complications. They're not particularly fast, right? They're just good. That could be anything like Comfortably Numb, honestly. Buddy Holly by Weezer, so iconic. Gravity, John Mayer, simple. These are solos that are easy enough that beginners can learn them, but are also worth learning even if you're a guitar veteran. So how do we fix this? How do we change what we're doing to become better at what we're clearly spending most of our time doing if we're playing in bands. First things first, examine your practice schedule. Are you spending 100% of your practice time trying to get faster, trying to learn different scales, trying to push yourself in the direction of the shredster? If that sounds like you, then maybe adjust your practice time. Spend a third of your time on shredding and soloing because it's still fun. And then spend a third on getting better at the rhythmic element of your playing. And then spend a third of your time on getting better at the harmonic element of your playing. Here are a couple ways that you can improve your harmonic knowledge. Number one, if you are a beginner, if you're starting out, honestly, learn as many of your most basic chords as you can. Play country music, play folk tunes, play tunes that force you to learn how basic harmonic structure operates. What I mean by that is when the song is simple, what are the most common chords that you see pop up? And do they normally lead from one to the other? Does a C often go to an F or a G or an A minor? Or does it go somewhere else? Start analyzing the music that you're learning. If you're a little bit past the open chord phase, start learning all of your bar chord shapes for 6th string root and 5th string root, specifically in the E and A shapes, and learn them as major, minor, dominant, and major 7. And if you're past that, then make sure you know all 5 of the caged shapes in major, minor, dominant, major 7. And if you're past that, learn your inversions and learn how to break apart all of those 5 caged shapes into triads. Here's some tips on how to improve your rhythmic abilities. If you're new to guitar, practice with a metronome. Practice playing, specifically strumming in time. Get rid of the chords for a sec and just strum on some muted strings and see if you can keep your strumming patterns in time with the metronome. If you're pretty good at a metronome, play with a record, play with a live record. Learning to play with a metronome and learning to be consistent when it comes to your timing is just as important as learning how to play with a band, learning to follow the drummer, learning to follow the singer, learning to ebb and flow as music does and should. Start a band, play with other people, play with just you and another guitar player, but play with other people, learning to ebb and flow in a real life scenario, not just a recording, not just a metronome, but actually working with another human being will push you rhythmically probably faster than almost anything else you can do. Here's 2 things that you can do that will help with both. Number 1, learn songs that are not in the typical genre that you would play. If you're a country guy, learn some metal songs. If you're a blues guy, learn some funk songs. Expand your musical horizons and you will expand your chord vocabulary, your rhythm vocabulary. Those funk guys have some crazy rhythms that you can then apply to solos and things that you do in a rock setting. The changes that happen in an R&B song are really important to know because you can take them and allow them to influence how you may write a rock song or write a country song and create something really, really cool. And second, learn theory. The reason why we would want to learn theory is because honestly, theory is number 1, a great way to kind of break yourself out of a rut and keep yourself interested in guitar. And after that, it's the same thing as how when we are growing up, we learn English, we learn to speak English with our parents and with our family, but then we go to school and we take language arts, we take English classes and we read books, right? We do all of this to make sure that we understand how nouns and verbs work and what all that does when we form sentences and when we start writing and when we do things on our own. It's the same thing with music, right? You may know how to play 1,000 songs, but do you understand why they operate and function the way that they do? Same thing with rhythms. If you don't understand what a quarter note is versus an eighth note versus a 16th note, then it's going to be really hard to pick apart and analyze songs that you're not necessarily used to. All of this to say, just play guitar. Right? Play every element of the guitar. Don't just play the shreddy stuff. Don't just play power chords, right? Play it all. Learn it all. Because doing so will enable you to move and change and know the fretboard better than people who just stick with the one genre that they know and love. All right, that's all I got. Tell me what you think down below. How do you feel about harmony and rhythm? What helped you get better at both of those things? Put it in the comments down below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I am less than 200 subscribers away from reaching 1,000, which would be a cool milestone. On top of that, I checked my analytics and less than 1% of the people who consistently watch my videos are subscribed. So click that button. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name is Mac Wright. Go make someone else's day better and we will see you around.